Good morning.
And welcome to Murder and Coffee, our brand new GM talk show here on TPK. Woo! I am Dr. Tyrant, and I will be one of your co-hosts this morning. I am joined by the extremely talented and always immaculate Osara X Franco. This morning's episode is part of TPK Roleplay's 14 Days of Halloween, a 2-week-long event where we are putting on spooky content every day. Be sure to check out our calendar, which will be linked in chat. For all of you DMs, horror aficionados, and shivering adventurers out there, we will be accepting audience questions near the end of the stream. So while you think about some of the things you'd like to ask, why don't we go around the table real quick and introduce ourselves, starting with Luca.
Hi, I'm Lukalock. I am Dungeon Master and Design Coordinator for TPK Roleplay. And this morning I am drinking Found Familiars Initiative.
All right, I guess that's me. Hello, everybody. I am Kohlrabi. I do a lot of stuff at TPK, and you can find me Kohlrabi everywhere. I am drinking the coffee that I set to my left, the Elder's Fathom Ancient Blend by Geek Grind Coffee Company.
And that leaves me. Hello, I'm Osara X Franco. I'm really excited to be here. I GM and play on TPK and just a whole slew of things. And today I am drinking my favorite coffee, the one thing that keeps me alive as a human person, Stumptown's Hairbender Blend. So I'm starting to feel those morning jitters, and I'm here for it.
And I am Dr. Tyrant, a GM, staff member, and host for TPK Roleplay. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at Dr. Tyrant. I am drinking a coffee, the name of which I do not know, but you can buy it in extreme bulk on Amazon, and that is why I'm drinking it. So, now that we have intros out of the way, how about we get the show on the road? We will be discussing horror and TTRPGs today, so slight disclaimer that some of the topics discussed might be distressing to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. So hey guys, how you doing?
Hi, good morning.
Spooky.
I think we're all extremely tired. For some reason, one or the other, we all didn't get very much sleep.
Right. Because why
That's
would
what
we
the
ever?
coffee is for.
Yep, I definitely woke up today feeling like murder, so I'm in the right mindset for the show.
Sarah and Tyrant are both a little
Yeah.
quiet.
I just boosted my
Oh.
audio, so hopefully that fixed that.
Too
Thank
quiet.
you, chat. You're the real MVPs of this show. I appreciate you.
Okay. So I think just the easiest way to kick this off is to just go around the table here and discuss everyone's horror backgrounds. So first question, what has been your favorite horror themed session, either one shot or campaign that you've DM'd or played in?
Are we just keeping this order? Am I going first?
I think keeping the
or
order
just whoever wants to hop in?
should be fine. If you want to hop in, like if you have an idea or something throughout the show, and you want to hop in, don't worry about the order. It's loosey goosey.
Loosey goosey. Okay, well, since I started talking, you go first.
Yeah. Good plan, great plan.
Okay. So I'm not actually a huge horror fan. I will not watch scary movies. Every once in a while, I have a bunch of friends that literally just like pick me up and set me in front of a TV and are like, "You're watching this." And the like 2 times that's happened in my life, I have taken just years to recover because it stays in my brain. But I love gothic horror. I love gothic horror, and I kind of enjoy the tropes of like teen horror shows, that like 80s vibe. We went to a cabin in the woods thing like that. But things like The Ring and It Follows just are too much for me. So I keep it in the gothic horror, and Honestly, one of my favorite horror things to run is Death House from Curse of Strahd.
Wait, what? What did you say is in Strahd?
Oh, spoilers.
Spoilers.
I need to
Spoilers.
back out. I'm not ready for a death house.
Listen, it's a super warm, cuddly house.
Yep.
It's
a lot of
gonna
things
be
will try to
fine.
hug you.
But no, there's a lot of stuff in there, and there's different ways to run it, and I usually run it the more less combat, more role play oriented, to where you're there investigating the mystery of how things went so wrong and how you can put it right, rather than just like slasher, everyone's gonna try and kill you. And kind of in that vein, like another one of my favorites obviously was Mad Manor of Aswar by David Dedka. And that was the one shot that turned into the 3-shot. But I love that one because it's like you're exploring this house, you don't really know what's going on, someone on the road asked you for help, there's weird magic happening, there's skulls with moons on them, like you don't really understand what's happening, and every room is like a different puzzle, and it starts to become scary to even cross a threshold into a new room. And I like that because it's like I don't want, but I have to. So I really like that.
If we're going in order for this question, I guess that leaves me next. Yeah, I am the huge horror person, as you can tell by my shirt and my background.
I would never guess.
The shirt is from It. The background, a lot of people don't recognize, which shame, is from Trick or Treat, which is like the best horror, like actual like Halloween movie almost ever made. So yeah, for a player, I think my favorite session was, one of them was probably Mad Manor of Aswar. The murder at in the full title was good too. Giraffe Man.
Fucking
That's
Giraffe Man.
classic stuff right there. Don't talk to Tyrant about Giraffe Man.
Hey, listen.
You'll hurt him.
As a lot of you will come to realize when you appreciate horror more, horror as a genre is very subjective. And there are general tropes that people like to play off of. And then there's more specific things that terrorize the hearts and minds of certain people, like giraffes.
Yeah, giraffes. So. As a DM, I think my favorite has yet to happen, but will happen soon. But Ode to the Dragon was pretty good. That was kind of my first baby, based off of the ship scene from Dracula, which you can watch. It's Bram Stoker's Dracula. You can watch the original with names like when I'm in the middle of things.
Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman. Yes, there you go. And Keanu Reeves. Yeah.
And Winona Ryder.
Luca hated it, but the Netflix show.
So cheesy.
The Netflix show is more serious vibes and brutal, yes. But it gets weird. But that's all I'll say.
So I'm gonna end us on a down note. I am also not a horror person, like at all, like not even a little bit. Like scary movies, no. Haunted houses, no. I don't do it. I have always had an overactive imagination ever since I was a kid. This is a true story. I saw The Grudge in high school and I didn't sleep for a week. Like I don't mess around with any of it. That being said though, I'm very similar to Luca. I really like unsettling things. I'm a big graphic novel person, or web comics was huge. So Emily Carroll, a lot of her stuff is just, her art style is phenomenal, and it's just that she takes a lot of folk stories and just kind of ups the creep factor. So you're reading it and you're like, like it just, I like that a lot. The Last Halloween is also a phenomenal web comic that kind of leans into the spookier elements. I really like how did you put it, Luca? Kind of like the creepy, like Victorian,
so like gothic horror.
Yeah.
Vibes.
Like it's not. I like slashers, all that stuff. I don't really go into. My favorite session, what I would say horror session that I played in, was actually in Harper's, the Verdant Fontisserie. 100% that was a horror themed episode for me. Just the ideas, the concepts that were in there of you know, experimentation and like the callousness of it and all of that. Like my character was unsettled. Me as a human person was unsettled. Like it was this perfect blend of just like pushing that line of like, this is not okay, and being like, and then as far as running, again, I'm not a horror person, so I would not confidently say that I've ever run anything with strong horror themes, particularly because I'm not super experienced in that at all, and that's not necessarily what I go in for. But I am so excited to talk about it with everyone here, because I think everyone here does a phenomenal job of, and from what I've seen and experienced, of taking those themes and like weaving them into the content that you make.
You say you don't run horror, but like I have felt legitimate fear deep inside my soul while playing in your sessions.
Which is so funny, because like I don't feel like, and maybe that's the secret, is when you're making a horror thing, you don't feel scared. Like, I don't know.
I've been scared.
Legit,
been so scared.
Legit, I'm the biggest scaredy cat. I watched a documentary about horror film special effects and had nightmares. That's not a joke.
Yep, that's where I am.
So Tyrant's most scared he's ever been was obviously the Giraffe Man, right?
Obviously.
You know, that definitely spooked me. So the scene that we are referring to specifically is a one shot that our very own Turk with an accent in chat, ran, called Murder at the Old Wolf Inn. And in it, we were investigating a bit, and behind a closed door, behind the scenes, I had told Turk that I was afraid of giraffes, and which we can get into, but giraffes are terrifying. And
wait, stop.
You gotta set the scene.
Why?
Yeah, you
tell
gotta
us
set
all
the
why
scene.
they're so terrifying to you.
Okay. First off, they are way too tall. They can run very fast. I've seen videos of them keeping up with cars,
Very fast,
which is terrifying. Their tongues are like 4 feet long, and when they fight, they whip each other with their necks. If that doesn't scare you, then just oh God, I'm just shivers thinking about it now. And don't laugh at me, Luca.
I'm laughing.
Okay.
I'm also laughing at the mental image of like giraffes fighting with their necks. It's just
so
very
intense.
good. Like these weird noodly, like just
this has
at
been
each other.
Giraffe fear facts with Tyrant.
Yeah. Tyrant, though, before you get too far down the giraffe train, you have to answer the question and talk about Project Zion. Because we technically skipped over you since you asked the question.
Absolutely. And I think from, we'll all have our opportunities to answer each of the questions. Even the person who asked the question should answer their own. So my horror background is a little more extensive, like Cole's. I started reading horror at a very young age. The first horror book I read was Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark by Alvin Schwartz, which is incredible. And if you haven't read it, you should. If you don't want to read something, they made a movie, so go check it out. But yeah, no, I got that from like my middle school library when I was a kid. And read that and was genuinely terrified. So that kicked off a very long and prosperous horror loving career, I guess. And then I started reading Stephen King, who is just ridiculous. But eventually I moved into more of writing my own horror. So I've written a couple of short stories in horror. I, like Luca, have run Curse of Strahd, and that is chock full of horrible things that you can do to your players. Wink, wink, GMs. Yeah, so Project Zion in particular is a one shot that is the first one shot that I DM'd on TPK. It was a while back. It was horror themed. It was kind of like futuristic sci-fi themed horror, where it was all VR based adventure. Um, it was a very unique experience to me because I directly enabled my players to metagame. That was kind of the central crux of the entire session. And because of that, I feel like the horror element of it was a lot more potent, um, because I was kind of aiming and trying to play with their sense of reality, which they signed up for. They said it was okay. I'm not. Uh, we'll get into like how we prepare for horror later, but my research for the session and my making sure that everybody was okay was extensive. But yeah, I'm very excited to talk horror because it's one of my favorite things. I know Cole is more of a gruesome horror fan, I think. I'm more of the slow build, deeply unsettling horror guy. So
Gotta have both for me. Like A24 over here, but then like Rob Zombie, I'm still.
Hell yeah, Rob Zombie. Hell yeah. So I have a question, because we kind of like have talked a little bit about, I mean, Tyrant specifically, but my question is, and we'll start with Cole. I want Cole to answer it first. Is how much of your own fears like play into you building a session, designing a horror session for your players and audience? Like how much of like this keeps Cole up at night or in those sessions?
Yeah. So you're not gonna get the answer you expect, because it's zero. So I am more like I put in stuff that's.
Well, has no fear.
Well, I don't have no fear. I'll answer that. I'll answer that at the end. I'm human. Humans all have fears, and if you say you don't, you're probably a psychopath. But I put in things that I think are super cool to me that I know scare other people. I didn't even know until this year that like body horror was a thing that actually legitimately bothers people. I didn't even understand that until this year. So it's one of the things that now I know to let my players know, like, hey, this has body horror in it. Is that okay? If not, we might have to consider, doing something else. So I'm the only one that's going to get this reference, but if you watch the Scream TV series, there's a character named Noah, and he's basically the guy that's like super into it, and he like calculates everything. While all his friends are being murdered, he's talking about horror tropes and slasher tropes to try to figure out and catch the killer. So he's one of the most brave characters because he's so into horror. So I just put in what I think is cool. One of my favorite movies when I was like 5 or 6 was Candyman and Hellraiser, and it drove my grandma crazy. Like, no kid at that age probably should have those as some of their favorite movies, but I mean, I turned out fine. My IRL fears are, I feel more grounded in reality. One of my biggest fears is just someone like breaking in the middle of the night when I'm asleep and me not being ready for it, or heights, and that's about it. So I just think things are cool and put them in. I'm not scared of anything I've ever written myself.
Gotcha. Luca, same question to you. I'm very curious. As one of your players, very curious.
So I watched this thing once on how every horror movie, like how some get to some people and others don't. And because like each one actually just is a psychological fear that people have just expanded into a whole movie. Like Oculus is the fear of like losing your mental stability, your own control over your mind. Like It Follows is the fear of death, because it's just this stalking horror that's just, no matter what, it's going to get you in the end. But it's very much like things like that are what I play on. Like I definitely, and I list those two movies for a reason, because those are like my fears. But like I was ready to like when Veldani was there at the end with the portal, I was ready to just strip away her mind if she even touched that magic. And that's truly terrifying to me. You have a character that like doesn't have like their mind anymore, or like when you guys went to the labyrinth and it was like, I'll take one of your memories. That's horrifying to me. Like it's just gone from your mind. Like just messing with your mind is just horrifying to me. So like I'll put things like that in, or I also just like the slow build of like, you don't know what's happening, but you know something bad is happening, like that just slowly death stalking you kind of throughout like Mad Manor. You know, you're going through this room, every room is dangerous, and you still don't really understand what's going to be at the end,
but you
have
to
you're
keep
still
going.
walking forward. And it's that slow build of like, that's what legitimately gets me, and so that's what I usually try and build into stuff.
The only way out is through, is what you're saying, like that kind of concept.
And it's just, you've just got to like keep going, and the whole time you're just like, ah!
fear. Tyrant, what are your thoughts? I can't anticipate we're going to see very many draft men in your content soon, but maybe.
No, I definitely, my fears specifically are giraffes, spiders, and the unknown. And I think the unknown specifically is it can be played into a lot of different things. And it's kind of like, I think psychology kind of says that the unknown is a shared fear for everyone. So thankfully it's not just me. But no, putting stuff in my own games, because I do have some more specific fears, I definitely try to do my research beforehand, and not just play off of like horror stereotypes. Obviously, you can draw a lot from movies or books that you've read, but you want to keep it fresh. For instance, for the Curse of Strahd campaign that I ran, just for my friends, the one thing that I put in there was I actually asked them some of their fears before the campaign started. And with my friends IRL, with no viewers, I was able to be a little more mean. Luca would disagree with me, but I was able to be a little more mean in terms of horror. Also because we were very comfortable with each other at that point. And so there were definitely times where I played off of some of their more specific fears in the games, and it really just kind of depends on how the player feels about that. And you know, there's things that, you know, taking a step behind the curtain a little bit, there's things that we can or can't do for a stream for our viewers. But I think a lot of that gets filtered out through, you know, how we feel, you know, using our best judgment, and then, you know, how our players have dictated that, you know, stuff.
I feel like this is a perfect segue, because this is kind of built around, you know, the GM side of things. One thing that I absolutely love and adore about TPK is the consent form. And especially when it comes to things like this, like horror, and how important that is from a GM to player, building that trust, building that relationship, and making it a safe environment. Because to your point, you said earlier, Tyrant, horror is subjective. It's different from for everyone else. So for those who are in chat who are unfamiliar, TPK has, when you are onboarded as a player and you're entering into a new one-shot or campaign or whatever, we have you fill out a consent form where basically you go through and you say, I'm okay with these kinds of things being in the session. I'm not okay with these. And you share that with your GMs so they're aware. And again, I want to go back to the Verdant Frontistery for Harper's. Luca was amazing and reached out beforehand and was like, hey, just a heads up, there's going to be these kinds of things in the session. Is that okay? And she didn't she didn't spring it on us. It didn't ruin the surprise. It was such a wonderful, respectful thing, because then I was like, okay, yes, and I was better prepared to handle what came later in the session. So I think I want to stress that just super duper quick. As a GM, respect your players, respect their limitations when it comes, they respect that it can be different than yours, and make sure you establish a relationship of trust and respect. So everyone can continue to have fun in this space. Because if we had walked in and that shit had been happening and I hadn't had warning, I might have had to have been like, well, I need a minute. Because it was just
I linked the resource that I use for the consent form
amazing
in chat, but it's by Montecook Games, and it's a free resource. You can go and it's donate but download for free. But it's got a whole little PDF that you can read and walks you through how to establish trust at the table.
Also, shout out to Chrissy in chat.
Yeah, Chrissy. on that note, we at TPK want to make sure that one of those is filled out for every single long campaign, but it is pretty extensive. So honestly, what I do sometimes for a one shot is I just lay it out front and I say, you guys know me, I don't touch on half of the other stuff that's on the forum. This is a one shot, but here, these are all the trigger warnings. This is all the stuff we're covering. Is everyone okay with that? So that's another really easy way. I 100% think everyone should fill it out for a full campaign or something long form, but I understand sometimes if it's just a one shot, if people don't want to do that for every single one, so you can still do the same thing without filling out the form.
Right.
Before we get off of what scares us, Purple Phil had a question in chat if you guys saw it.
Yes, we did.
What is everyone's favorite phobia? Which for me is really hard because I don't have one, and I almost don't understand. I understand that they exist, but I cannot understand.
Thalassophobia.
Is that the underwater thing?
Yes. It's the fear of the unknown in the deep, the fear of going down into the deep water. You can't see the bottom. It's just dark down there. Playing Subnautica, when you get out to certain edges and I'm in the deep. I don't know what's down there. Okay, I'm going. It's horrifying. But also lakes, for whatever reason, I don't like lakes that you can't see the bottom of, because it's this is a mountain lake. I've seen horror movies. There's dead bodies down there. I can't. So thalassophobia is a big one.
Trypophobia is a cool one to me as well.
Oh, no. Body horror. Nope.
Define,
itchy all over.
Define those for those of us who don't look into phobias, because they can't be.
Trypophobia is
they can't be bothered.
Irregular bumps or holes or something in skin.
Yep.
Or
okay,
just anything.
Or just any surface, but usually in skin. But any surface, you see, and the bump is unregular, or it's just
Yep. Picking up. I'm picking up. Tyler?
I think so. The question, what is your favorite phobia, is a little contradictory to me. Because it's well, I'm afraid of it, so I don't know if I'd be favor one or the other. Obviously the phobia of giraffes, whatever that is. And then I think
to know the name of this.
I got you.
The funniest phobia that I know of, and it's obviously me saying this, your fears are not funny. Your fears are not funny. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is hippopotamonstrosis equipedaliophobia, which is the fear of long words, and it's the longest word in the English dictionary,
Yeah.
is really funny to me. So that's definitely my favorite.
Yeah. Yours is Camillopardalyphobia.
Yeah,
That-
I had to Google
Fear of
some.
giraffes.
That's gross.
I had to Google some.
I don't like that.
I I don't love like weird body stuff. Like,
Body
oh no,
horror, yeah.
here's my legitimate horror. I'm afraid of like alien movie. I don't know what the phobia name is called, but like alien movies where the aliens like go in the bodies and they like explode out, or like the Thing. You know what I mean?
That's basically body horror. Yeah.
Yeah,
At
like
least I would think so.
That freaks me out so bad. Like nothing will make me nope out faster than like something implanting in some. Nope. I'm out. See you later.
That would be
The thing where it crawls in your ear and takes over your brain,
Yes,
or that
yes,
sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
that would be scolesiphobia.
Yeah,
which is
no.
Interesting.
Can't.
the fear of parasites.
Yeah, just anything like that freaks me out real bad. I like, again, I think to Ty's point, like is it my favorite? No, but it's legitimate.
Hey, Sarah.
I just want to point out, Chrissy made an excellent observation in chat. Eminem is afraid of giraffes. So
What?
you guys can just go take it
Your
out
fear is valid,
with my friend,
Hey,
all right? Because he is a bad man.
I think we're all on board that we understand Ty's fear of giraffes. It's just the way it happened in the one shot was just too perfect to
It
describe.
was amazing because we had no idea.
But Sarah, I
Yes.
have to say, if you are not a fan of body horror,
Yes.
trigger warning for Sunday.
Oh yeah. No, I'm gonna listen. The title that's been thrown around for that, I'm out. Like, I'll like lurk and chat with the sound off, but like I'm not. I cannot deal.
Specifically, I want to bring up, because it was mentioned a little bit. So the jump scare, which was a jump scare for me at least, in Murder at the Old Wolf Inn, brings up a good point. It's so when I am putting my fears into a one shot or a campaign, what I like to do, my kind of DM style, is uploading photos or art to Roll20 so that I can do quick handouts. If you watched Monster Mash this past Wednesday, in the very beginning, you saw my incessant clicking through photos for you guys, and Project Zion was very much the same. It's very hard not to find photos that you're like, if you're looking for something that's going to scare people, finding actual images it's a lot easier to find stuff that you would be unsettled by. And so that's kind of where my focus in putting my own fears into my work comes in, is the visual elements of it. And then, obviously, like descriptors, like
Right.
how you
describe something matters, because I think you can describe anything in a way that's terrifying, and I think like that's when I think of horror in the way that I would approach it, that's more it. I'm in my sessions, it's more like existential dread rather than like physical horror. It's more just like, oh God, we don't know what's going on, rather than there's a thing exploding out of another thing and it's horrifying.
Yeah. And so I know we kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'm still very curious. So starting with whoever wants to jump in, if not, starting with, let's start with Sarah. How would or do you balance horror elements in sessions so that they are frightening, but not overwhelming to viewers or players. And I know we definitely touched on
Right.
the consent form.
Yes, and that's gonna be my big thing is I think the best way to balance is to level set, right? Make sure that you understand where everybody's at on their own spectrum for the themes that you want to incorporate in your session. And then for me, Luke is gonna laugh, but for me, like in my approach as a GM, is that humans are the real monsters. So the things that I like to make scary, or the place that I try to instill horror, is through my characters or through my NPCs. The best example that comes to mind is my Baron von Scouten. He was a homebrewed wight who his whole backstory is literally he was just a shitty guy. Like, he was just a horrible leader. He didn't care about the people he was supposed to take care of. All he cared about was his own vanity and selfishness. And like, for me, the horror theme in that is, what do you do when someone like that gains the power to control the undead and like build an army? You know what I mean? And I wouldn't say that he was particularly scary, but like the thing that I wanted to instill in that and balance in that is like, this person is a threat. And I think that's it's the promise of threat without like necessarily going all out for it. Like, I wanted them when they walked in and he's just dancing and like does not give a shit that they're there and thinks that they're amusing and is like totally unconcerned by them, that it's like, when I talk about sessions, it's like the video game brain is like, threat. Like, it's just like enemy detected. Like, that's what I go for from like a horror standpoint, because that's also really fun to play with, to trick players, right? Like, for example, I brought in another NPC in the last Bard's Refrain, Jealousy, and it was like, threat. But was he? You know? And so I think that's for me what it is balancing it in a way where you're hinting at it and then watching to see how players respond, and then following that through, but establishing it with consent. That's my answer. Long-winded though it may be.
I'll answer real quick because my answer won't be as good as Sarah's. It's really hard for me because, as I mentioned, I am not scared. I've never once been scared or creeped out by something in a TTRPG, which I don't mean to say that to like discredit the writers or the GMs. Like, I have a ton of fun, I love it, but I've never ever been creeped out. For me to get creeped out, it has to be like the most perfect of circumstances, because I'm so, I don't want to say desensitized, but like maybe that's it. Like, even for a movie to scare me, I have to be in the dark, home alone, entire house to myself, and the movie has to be like really good, really creepy, like The Babadook or something like that. Like,
no.
Yeah, that's where also like A24, like slow burn, like build up horror, it can also get pretty creepy. How I balance it is I just try not to go too far. Because since I know that things don't scare me or don't creep me out, like, I still try to make it as a game in a world where how far it goes is mostly up to the players, and then setting those clear expectations at the start. Like, this is a horror one shot. Like, there will be gore, there will be weird descriptors and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I approach it.
I'll answer. So as far as balance, like it on the topic of the consent form, so I do that with everything except Curse of Strahd. Like, I just basically explain, these are the things I will never ever touch on. They just don't happen in my world. But other than that, everything else in the horror genre is going to happen. So if you are uncomfortable with that, like, we can talk, but please expect these things to happen. But the thing I do to balance is humor. I don't think that you can have good horror without humor.
Thank God for humor.
And even if even if like we're just in it and I can tell everyone's freaking out or very scared, if someone has a bad roll or something, I will lean into that. Like I will get everyone laughing about how horrible the roll is or how much they're going to die, but like they're laughing about it because you've got to like relieve that stress somehow. So just I try and like make sure that like while I'm leading them through this terrifying place, like my vibe is always like a little hijinksy,
Mm-hmm.
so that they know that like it's okay. She's just telling a story.
Right.
We're okay.
Like in Princess Bride, where he like stops. She doesn't get eaten by the eels at this time. Like you kind of like take that step back.
Yeah, I do that where it's like, it's okay. The DM is making fun of us for the one we just rolled. We're
Right.
gonna be okay, guys.
Right.
But another thing I'll do to balance is I love throwing in mildly infuriating NPCs.
Yes.
That is my favorite thing to do. Like the slightly passive aggressive or
Mhm.
the just slightly unhelpful.
They know
or
something you
or
need, but they're gonna be a
the
bitch about
slightly
it.
condescending, you know, the oh yeah, sure, dear, I'm sure you can do that.
Mhm.
Now I love doing that, and I feel like it allows the players to kind of harp in on that, like just kind of focus in on like I want to kill this thing, like,
Mhm.
and not get so freaked out by what's happening around them. I
Mhm.
give them an easy, harmless bad guy to focus on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And to your earlier point, there's actually a passage in Curse of Strahd, the actual book, where it says it like lists off a long thing of things you can do to break the tension, because especially in long form horror campaigns, unless you're playing a very intense hardcore run through of something, it's going to get a little tense, and you're gonna feel, especially with Curse of Strahd, a bit deflated at times. And so it's very important, for if the intention of the DM is not for your characters to experience complete misery, which, hey, I'm not judging, not judging. That's totally fine. For you to balance it out with, like, I think one of the things is you happen upon a clearing, and just here in this one spot, the sunlight is able to break through, and it fills you with warmth and helps you along the way. Which, if you know anything about Barovia and Curse of Strahd, that's like huge. That's
Right.
hallowed ground. So, yeah, just stuff like that. How I specific? Oh man, and I asked the question too. How I balance horror elements. So a lot of my balancing is very subtle. Subtle undertones is what I try to do as much as possible, um, leading up to a climax of sorts. So just putting in the odd phrase or word here and there so that it's kind of gets their minds subconsciously working, and then working up to active descriptors that will actually make them start thinking, and then that harkens back to their subconscious kind of like uneasiness, and then eventually introducing slowly and then more rapidly actual physical terrors into the writing. Um, I think slow build horror, and I said this earlier, slow build horror is my favorite thing. And honestly, my favorite movies to watch are like no jump scare, no obvious horror, like the stuff where it's just like you could watch it, and without the very subtle things that they add in here and there, it could be a completely different movie. One of those things being music, which I'm sure we will talk about very soon. Just something where you kind of sort of sitting there, and a word or phrase that is said just kind of makes you squirm a little bit. and then the DM will actively describe a scene that is objectively or subjectively, depending on the group, a little disturbing. Then they start getting their minds churning, and then they start seeing other things.
Right.
And then eventually,
That's the trick, right? Get them down the path and like let them freak themselves out. Like,
yeah, exactly. The easiest way to create a horrifying experience for your players is to let them do all the work.
right. But that's the real secret of being a GM. Make the players do the work.
One of my favorite GM tips ever is, if you really want to freak your players out while they're talking, just roll some dice.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Key move. That's the key move.
It's so good.
If they start memeing too hard, just start rolling and not saying anything. Instant fear. Instant fear.
So
just
good.
try not to smile.
Impossible. Can't be done.
Or just every once in a while, just hold on. I gotta roll something. They're like, "Why? What did we do? Who just touched something?
What?
Like,
huh?
Did someone step somewhere?" Yeah.
So we've got a couple of amazing questions that I really want to get to.
Yes.
The first from Chrissy. Have you guys ever done something as a GM based in horror to be scary that's gone badly? Why did it go badly? And what did you learn from it? I love this continuous improvement mindset. Hell yeah. Let's talk about it.
I think the next question also goes in tandem. If you wanted, I think you could answer both in a row.
So the other question comes from Comrade. Thank you, Comrade. What do you do when a player pushes it because they want to be more scary than the other players? I'm going to start this question with Luca, actually, because I think she DMs massive groups. So I feel like the possibility of things like going sideways is a little bit higher, statistically speaking.
So one of my favorite horror themed sessions that I prepared and got all ready was Skirvin Manor by DM Dave on Patreon. And while this isn't, I think, what you were asking, Chrissy, in terms of it going badly, in my opinion, it did go badly because it was set up to be a very slow build with clues all throughout. And because of my desire to not railroad, they were able to roll well enough to where they basically cut through all of that and went straight to the end.
You're welcome.
And my opinion, and well, they still, like, I think everyone still had fun, but in my opinion, like, the horror elements of it went badly because you basically just showed up to this house, had no idea what was happening there, and then fought a bad guy and we're done. And it was like, we don't know why this happened. We weren't like super creeped out yet. Like all of a sudden we're just fighting. And so like it went badly because we didn't get that slow build. And so what I learned from it is that sometimes you do need to railroad a little. Sometimes, especially given your players and their abilities, you do need to set the DC higher than 30 because that is what it was set at.
And
still
we
happened.
Wrecked it.
like every once in a while it's like, no, that is not going to happen. You actually do have to solve a puzzle. I'll take multiple answers to this puzzle, but I'm not just going to let you lockpick your way through this.
She's talking about me, by the way, so I apologize.
It was a group effort.
I was also there.
You all very
Cole.
became like fixated on that thing, and you were like, I don't care about the rest of this house. We're getting through here. We found a door. We're going.
My favorite part is at the end, is we found the horror theme upstairs because some of the players were like, we're getting all the treasure, and they went upstairs and there was just this poor guy in the corner, and we were like, oh, well, we're burning the house down, so it doesn't matter.
So, like, it's maybe not what you were asking, Chrissy, but in my opinion, that, like, did go badly because there was all this build that was going to happen, and we just cut right through it, and then it was like, all right, well, we're done, and we kind of won, and we don't really know what happened, so. But as far as, like, players that want it to be more scary.
Or rather, they're pushing it, right?
Yeah, I don't know, other than the like kind of death drifter mentality, the people that are there to just show up for I like consequences. Like, yeah, you definitely just rush ahead and touch that thing. Like,
Whoops.
sucks for you. The rest of these guys are going to be able to continue forward and explore this place. But like, so I really like consequences. Like, and like I've argued with Tyrant about this with his Curse of Strahd, because in his campaign, his players did the one single thing that you are not supposed to do, and I was like, you need to go just biblical on them, like just blow it up. And I was very hardcore pushing the consequences, and he's like, but I love my players.
To preface, they did a specific thing that in the lore of Curse of Strahd would enact, like Lucas said, biblical level punishment from Strahd. I felt like I shouldn't do it because two of the players already had characters that had died. So like 5 character deaths for 3 players may have been a bit too much. And it was literally like when it happened was literally right after one of them had died too. And so it was kind of I don't know. I was a little tentative about it. But I actually have some good answers to these questions. Incredible questions, by the way, Chrissy and Comrade. I've never really had a moment where a scene or a horror scene specifically has gone badly. I can vividly picture that though. I can like see a player's face when you do something a little too much. And one thing that I love, that one of our GMs at TPK does, DMF Saint, he does the
Yes.
red, yellow, green light system, where it's very subtle, so you don't even have to like say anything specifically. But he asked for all of his players to have an object that they can kind of bring on screen to signify to him that, hey, let's slow down, or hey, hard stop. And that kind of, it's very potent for streaming, for content creation, because you are as a GM trying to balance something that is scary, something that is potent for your viewers, but you also want to make sure that your players, your actors are comfortable enough to continue playing. So much props to Saint for that. It's an incredible idea, and I know that there are plenty of other people that use that system too. Comrade, your question about what I would do if players try to push the narrative, like Luca was mentioning, in the past I've not been the best at disciplining players. I will say. Now that I have a little more experience, especially like on screen and with a lot of other different, incredible people that I've played with, no, it would be no question. I would give them the consequences that they deserve. I mean, if you design something to be a horror themed element that is going to be, if they charge right in, if the monster is going to kill them, it's going to kill them. And you don't have to make it, a gruesome death or anything. It kind of depends on what your players have already outlined, what they want. But, it could be potent enough to just say they rush into the dark and they don't come out. One thing that, and I don't know if Turk is in chat right now.
He is.
One thing that Turk did that freaked me out. This last Wednesday for Monster Mash, we were the entire time we were kind of like planning this to be a meme, just a total hoodwink of a session.
Yes.
It totally turned out to be exactly what we thought it was, but there were still some elements of horror in there. And at the very end, I'm not going to spoil too much, but at the very end, Turk was describing a scene, and he popped a blood packet into his mouth off screen and came back up and was just pouring fake blood out of his mouth, and I freaked out. I was like, holy crap, Turk, are you okay? like total red card for me, because not because he did it, but because it was so unexpected. And as a GM, I care for my players.
You were afraid he was in legitimate physical harm.
Actual harm.
I thought he was dying. And if you go back and watch the clip or go back and watch the video, you can see my face. I just go, oh. It was crazy.
That's very, very good.
Yeah.
Cole, I need to know.
So my answer I think will be fast. So I think I'm in the same regard as Luca about the only way things have gone badly is reveals or story elements haven't gone how I expected, which is something you kind of have to prepare for as a GM.
For anything, right?
This isn't a horror one shot, but it was the something Glades or whatever one shot. There was a thing that I kind of let them do that entirely skipped like a part of the story. I secretly like brought it back around in a little bit without them knowing, but in the moment I was like, shit, I just ruined this whole thing. It worked out because it made it shorter, because like one shots are never 4 hours if they're written by someone else. I'm sorry. I've yet to find one that I can actually run in under 4 hours if it says 4 hours. But I'm a really, I don't know how to explain it. I am like master of illusions. Like everything I post or say could be a secret clue.
Secrets within secrets. Enigmas in puzzle boxes.
So usually what goes wrong is people never pick up on the clues, which is also I'm totally fine with, because then they experience it without ever getting the secret clue. A player pushing it too far, I think the consequences answer is really good. If you check out this weird creepy statue for too long, you cut your hand on the statue and you lose health. And anytime a player loses health from something, they're immediately like, okay, stop, we're going away.
Yep.
Sometimes the party gets split because one character really wants to keep looking at the statue and the rest are like, nah, this thing is creepy, let's go. I think with the clear expectations we set and how we play at TPK and the community has made it so it's never been where a player has pushed it to push it too far. So
yeah, and I'll just tack on to that, like consequences. I think sometimes as GMs we feel a pressure to like be cool in situations where things are not cool, and I would like to empower all of us. If you have someone at your table who's not playing nice, you don't have to play nice back. Like if someone were at my table pushing something that was clearly making other people uncomfortable, I'd stop the session. Just hard stop. Like, hey, nope, burp. Like all the VR lights go down, like the headsets come off, and it's like not cool. Like we're not doing that. Either stop your current trajectory or like you're invited to leave, because I think that again it needs to be clear, expectations need to be set, and especially around stuff like around horror or triggering concepts, right? Like I think there is a lot of pressure for GMs to just kind of like take whatever players throw at them, and I 100% get that. But if someone's being like blatantly disrespectful in their desire to like be creepy or horror or describe things in a way that's making other people uncomfortable, it's the GM's responsibility to just nope. Like, and I don't even think it needs to be in-game consequences. I think you can be like, hey, person A, not cool, shut it down. So that's all I would add to that.
Well, and if any, this is coming from the CEO of TPK, so I'll put on that hat for a second. If it ever happens in one of our sessions and you're a GM, we have intermission screens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to go to an intermission screen and call someone out, like, you have all the power. I would say don't do it live, but if you feel like it needs to be done live and it needs to be seen where you're like, hey, please stop this, I'm also all about that. So that's what I'll say for TPK, like, standard.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to tack on is we do a lot of D&D 5e at TPK, and we are starting to branch out a lot more. J.K. Madigan is introducing a lot of new systems
Hell
all
yeah,
the time,
JK.
which thank you so much for that. I know there's plans for plenty of different systems to either have one-shots or campaigns in the future, so we're looking forward to that. I will say it is a lot easier for a DM to control the horror narrative in other systems than it is in D&D 5e. Specifically, Monster of the Week, and this is my personal preference coming in because I love these systems. And if there are other amazing horror systems, I highly recommend you putting them in chat so that
Yes,
I can
please.
know. But Monster of the Week and Call of Cthulhu are incredible systems to use for horror, especially Call of Cthulhu is like based entirely around horror, so like there's that. But Monster of the Week, the DM or the GM doesn't roll. They just react to what happens, and they react to the players' rolls. And that gives you a lot more agency over your villains, your monsters. And so having that ability to just, yes, this happens to you, I'm sorry, definitely gives you the ability to create more of a terrifying environment.
So if we're being honest, Dungeon Masters and D&D have that option too. You guys don't know what I'm rolling.
Oh yeah.
Very true.
No,
Very
I
true.
straight up lie. I straight up listen.
Straight up,
I'm
listen.
not afraid.
I learned this from the Adventure Zone episode where they
Yes.
talked about, it's like, yeah, I flub rolls for narrative. Like,
Hell
if
yeah.
there's a narrative, and it's not always like me succeeding that I flub. Sometimes I'll flub a fail because I think it's more narratively interesting.
Yeah, I 100% agree, and I really want to play a horror theme something in another system because of exactly why Ty mentioned. A lot of people hate this, but I am the biggest proponent for breaking the rules in D&D if it works, and I am doing just that on Sunday, so I cannot mention exactly how, but for horror elements, I'm throwing the raw rules out for certain things and being like, no, this is how this is going to happen. This is how we're going to do it. One that I think kind of touched on that is Desert of the Dead, which was so hard. And
that's so cool.
Sticking to the raw rules actually made it a lot harder. And if I would have known that, I would have tweaked it in the moment. Last HP is a glorious person and like smartest dude ever. So of course he's the one that started breaking it by being like, well, I can cast this spell over and over and over and over into the horde of zombies this many times. So what do you do? And I'm just like, the PDF doesn't say what to do if people just kill 1,000 zombies. So I had to like on the spot be like, here's
your consequences. This is what happens. Ah.
There's 5,000 zombies, not 1,000. They just keep coming. So yeah, I would say a lot of people don't agree with this, but as the DM, break the rules. As long as you're not giving a bad time to your players. I mean, there's people who play D&D where only the DM rolls for everybody. Like it can work, but I do enjoy a system that has far less rules and far less we have to be in initiative now, and it kind of breaks the tension.
I just really quickly, I just want to plug JK ran Electric Bastion Lands. What was that? 2 days ago? Which is a system with like not very many mechanics. And it was, I would say, horror themed. We were like in a spooky house and it was like 80s horror movie hijinks and stuff. But what I appreciated about it was the flexibility to like have characters be scared and role play it out. And most of the time he would just pop in with like some quick like descriptors of what's happening. He wasn't rolling, he wasn't anything. It was just like, this is what happens. And that's what I really like about it. And I think when we get into system talks, we're afraid of like, well, but you have to like have the monster stat block and you have to, you have to roll stealth and you have to roll perception and you have to do all these things. No, you don't. And I think playing the game in a way that's fun and, to Luca's point, narratively interesting is what I want to do. But preference matters. But I think here, at least in this group, where I think we're all very much like, no, the rules will serve what I want to do, not the other way around.
Mm-hmm. No.
Yeah, and for people who say like, well, you should play another game, I should. I really should.
Fair.
But it's so hard when you're so busy and you need players. And like, shout out to JK again, because he's pulled it off with so many different systems so many times.
I know.
So I will.
Mad lad.
You just got to give me time. I do a lot of other stuff that gives me limited time to prep and learn a new system.
So yeah, we running a little bit low on time, so I think we have time for one more question.
What do you mean? I have all day. Isn't this
let's just go.
like 12-hour stream?
Well, we want to keep it digestible.
I have a whole pot of coffee. Let's go.
Well, if we are going to continue, and I'm totally fine with that, I need more coffee too. So if we want to take an intermission and continue, then that's...
I mean, me personally, I'm fine with like 2 hours, which gives us 45 more minutes. But
Perfect.
I mean, that's me.
So yeah,
And
we're gonna take a quick break though, because I am out of coffee and I'm sad
Same.
about it.
Same.
So we'll take a quick intermission, like 5 minutes tops. We'll top off coffee. Chat, thank you so much for hanging out. Hit us with some questions. We've got some prepped, but I would love to know what you have to ask the wonderful Cole, Luca, and Tyrant about horror. So we will be, and we're back. Hello. Thank you all. We are refreshed and ready to answer some amazing questions. You guys are the best.
Quick, before we get into the questions, did anyone have a coffee change in the intermission?
Nah, dude.
Just top off.
Okay.
There was a top off.
I did change something just for you, Ty.
Yeah.
Not the coffee, but I poured the rest of what was left black, and I'm trying it black.
Hell yeah.
I'm so excited.
It's such a big day for you.
It's okay. Like, I'm sorry, Greek grind. I'll maybe give you a second chance, but this coffee is not good. It does not have enough flavor. I asked Emily. I was like, "What do you think of this coffee?" She's like, "Yeah, it just like has no flavor." So, yeah, drinking
That's
it black
it.
as you suggested, not any better.
I since making this, I didn't grow up around coffee. And so there was like a metric in my mind that I set where it was like, I will be a full grown adult when I can drink my coffee black. Like, that's how I know I have arrived. And like, when that happened, I was like, I have arrived. Cole, you have arrived.
Okay, if we're talking about coffee a little more, I know we have questions. So I didn't start drinking coffee until I was like 24, maybe. So I'm still like coffee baby.
Yeah.
But Found Familiar, Thieves Can't, like, oh my gosh.
Choice.
I will forever like tell people to drink that forever.
Choice.
Speaking of Found Familiar, we are open for sponsorships. Just letting you know.
We just really like your coffee.
I would love to drink your coffee. Give me a reason to. Speaking of, I found out what I was drinking earlier. It is Coastal Blend by Kaza Trail. And it too was a bit bland. So I switched it up and I am now drinking cinnamon dolce.
Hell yeah.
From Starbucks.
Yeah, I know
So,
exactly what that is, and it's choice as hell.
Here's two. Thank you.
Congratulations on better coffee.
All right,
Yep.
I'm sorry, but I'm so stoked that Turk asked this because
I
I was
know.
getting the coffee and I was like, this question has to be asked.
Okay, so I think it's the last one, right? Or is it his first one? Because he asked two.
I think the first one.
His first one.
Okay, so yeah, what horror movie was the first one that really scared you, and do you think it has impacted the way you approach scaring players? Listen, I'm going to go first because the answer is going to surprise you. The first movie that scared the shit out of me was Rock-a-Doodle-Doo. That movie freaked me the fuck out, fam. Scared the shit out of me. It's not a horror film. It is a film made for children, and it scared me so bad. And like I can't tell you how low the bar is to freak me out. Like it's non-existent.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like I think for me what it is it's just like give players a concept, like one thing, just one concept for their brain to latch onto and obsess about for the rest of the session. For me, it was the fact that a kid got turned into a puppy and then the owls were singing about eating the puppy. And it was like, they're going to eat that kid. Freaked me out. Freaked me out so bad. So that's my really quick wimpy answer. Back to you all for real answers.
I think it's difficult because it was a long time ago, but I think the first movie that truly freaked me out was probably Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. The scene where spoilers for Harry Potter, I guess, if you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it, go watch it, please, or read it, whatever you prefer. The scene where Voldemort, or where I guess Voldemort was like drinking the unicorn blood. That scared me for so long as a kid. And just that kind of like disturbing imagery from something that was unknown, like that was the first like kind of indication that something truly evil was afoot. That freaked me out big time. And so that kind of that plays into how I try to scare my players a bit. Like something terrible happening, but you're experiencing it after the fact. Like you see the aftermath of this terrible being that came through and ravaged the countryside or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of insinuation is very potent to me, because it's like, oh, well, we don't know what it is, but it's gonna be rough. Sorry for being quiet. My mic's all messed up. So, Luca, Cole.
Okay. The first thing that really got me as a kid was in Neverending Story, the like kind of gremlin guy with the like eyes as he's peeking up over at the ivory tower. It's an innocuous moment, like it's totally like, but the eyes, like when I would go down into my basement, like it's like just the eyes staring at me out of the dark is what would get me. But like that was just like, you know, I'm like 5 years old, it's whatever. The first movie or movies that made me not okay, like I was up watching TV once and I saw The Vanishing on TV with Jeff Bridges and Sandra Bullock, where he's like a serial killer and he kidnaps her at a gas station. No one, like he had no connection to her, so no one knew even where to look, and she was just gone, and he buries her alive. And I saw him in that movie before I ever saw Big Lebowski or Tron or anything. So like to this day, Jeff Bridges terrifies me because he was so calm and just, and no one like Oh my gosh. So that movie, like, I was like not okay. Like, it wasn't even like scary. It was like, oh god, the evil in humanity.
This
Like,
is
kind of-
enlightening because I feel like your scary bad guys are always super fucking chill. Like just
Yeah.
real like, oh no.
No, it's the calm, chill, like they're not here. Like, yeah, that's why Strahd is so like he's not. You're nothing to him. Like, this is, yeah, that's very terrifying to me. But the first like horror movie that ever got me, and I don't watch horror, so it was literally like the first one was The Ring. I could not handle it. Her coming out of the TV at you, and again, this like slow stalking of like a death figure, like that cannot be stopped. There's no running from it. It's just coming. Seems to really get me. But like her coming out of the TV was horrifying. I also had like a possessed TV that like was old and broken, and it would just like flicker, and it's like, why is this happening to me? But like also the like when they would show what happened to them once she got them, the like in the closet moment, it's like, what a horrible way to do like, oh my god. Like, so that one, I was not okay for years. I went to a haunted house once and I walked in and they just had a well in the room, and I was like full on just started screaming and running. Like, I was like, no, like she started coming out as.
Was that Nightmare on 13th?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Speaking of haunted houses,
yeah.
And I know that I'm kind of breaking up the question, but
no, go.
Haunted houses scare me real bad.
Will not do.
I love them usually.
Will not do. Absolutely not.
I love them. Love the creativity that goes into them.
Love that. Love seeing all the costumes.
I love going
and
in
the
like,
stuff.
oh, look at that. Oh.
Yeah,
like,
but no, fear, no.
We have
Existential dread, no.
We have a haunted house like theme park, I guess you can call it, here where I live, and it's like 10 plus haunted houses, and they spend millions and millions of dollars on it every year.
Like a delight.
Do you have an extra bed by chance for next year?
Yeah, like can we come visit?
Yeah, totally.
Murder and Coffee.
It is considered like one of the top 3 haunted houses places in America, though. So like, it's legit and terrifying.
I'm down for it.
I love haunted houses. I really do. I think they're so much fun.
Yeah.
You get to explore on your own and go through, and
But like the one time I went through, I was in a group and we were walking down this like long dark hallway, and you know, in most haunted houses, the actors aren't allowed to touch you, right? There are haunted houses, not what I'm talking about, but there are haunted houses where you can sign like a consent form.
We have a few of those.
And those are truly terrifying. I will never do that.
Nope.
I wouldn't, as a person who's worked at a haunted house, even if you're not scared of it, don't let those people that work there touch you. I'm sorry.
Don't. I also know these people. I'm friends with them. Don't let them touch you.
But I was walking down this hallway, and like, there was someone behind me. It was actually my dad. My dad was behind me. And we were walking forward, and it was like this cramped space. And somehow he like got separated. And so he was like right behind me, and then he wasn't. And then there was someone else right behind me. And I felt breathing on the back of my neck. And I turned around, and there was like a wolf man, and I freaked out.
Absolutely not.
No, do you want me to tell you a secret, Ty?
Sure.
It wasn't somehow. It was on purpose.
I know.
All right,
Cool.
I have to answer this
Yeah,
question.
I know. I need to know.
My favorite. I am not impervious. I will say that. 99% of the time.
There's a chink in this man's horror armor.
A movie will not scare me, but there are certain circumstances where it's just imperfect. When I was a kid, even though I loved Hellraiser and Candyman and loved all that, my parents took me to see The Mummy. And it's not The Mummy, so don't think about The Mummy. There were previews, and I'm pretty sure, my mom is not here, she would have to confirm. There's a movie called The Haunting with Liam Neeson, and they had a preview for that, and I think there's like a bathtub scene or something. I'm not sure if I'm getting the movie right, but anyways, I started crying at the trailer. For some reason, it just hit me like that, and like The Mummy, I was fine. The Mummy didn't
No.
scare me at all.
Literally get freaked out by scary movie trailers. Literally get freaked out by trailers.
Same.
Not a
I
joke.
don't even like watching them.
Same.
As an adult, there's a couple. Paranormal Activity 1 and 2 in theaters. I don't care what anyone says. If you saw that movie in theaters the first couple days, you were scared and creeped out by it. I was in that theater. I heard like grown people screaming and being like, "Oh no!" through the whole movie. And then the Babadook. Also, just watch it alone in a dark room in a dark house, and it's perfect for that. How it affects me GMing, it hasn't, but thank you for the idea.
Right. While you guys were talking, I remembered one other thing, and I think it ties back to like my approach to horror in general. A show, it wasn't a movie, it's a show, Attack on Titan, season 1. I almost bailed out after 3 episodes. It freaked me out so bad. Like and the reason why, it wasn't necessarily like, yeah, there was like the horror of like people eating people, kind of that vibe, but the thing that freaked me out the most was like the hopelessness of the entire situation, of just like these people like getting up every day and their existence meaning nothing because they could be eaten by a titan at any moment. Like that freaked me out so bad. And like these kids like gearing up and they're like, we're gonna train so hard and we're gonna do cool stuff, and like, yeah, we're so cool, and then it immediately going wrong and them immediately dying in these horrific ways. I could not hang. But I would say like my approach is that create that sense of hopelessness, like create that sense of like we are truly fucked, and like that's what real horror is, right? It's not about like, and I think this goes to a question that we got asked later, is how do you make something scary without it being like gory or bloody? That's my answer. Make it feel like there is nothing you can do to prevent your inevitable demise. Like that will freak me out so bad. Like I was literally on my couch like this, screaming at the TV like, don't go outside. Like this is terrifying.
On haunted houses, just super quick, acting in a haunted house is incredibly fun. And a lot of haunted houses have secret hallways that the actors can dip out and come around behind you and separate you, which is a ton of fun. And scaring the Utah Jazz is like on my list of accomplishments.
Amazing.
I'm a tall guy, but if you're in a room with the Jazz, you're not tall anymore.
No one is tall.
One thing just to finish this up, I have a few movies that I would recommend everyone watch if they haven't already. The first being Insidious, which is it's considered to be one of the scarier movies out there. The second being Sinister, which is also considered to be one of them. I'm a big fan of Stephen King, so It.
It was actually really, really fantastic. The new one, it was fantastic.
The new one is incredible, but the old one is incredible as well.
Bigger warning for the book: if you read the book, it gets weird.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But Pet Cemetery always terrified me as well. And there was another one that I can't remember. But we can move on to the next question.
I just want to tack on one thing really quick, because you're listing off all these movies and I'm like, hard nope, absolutely not. But this is something that's true, a true story about me. I hate watching scary movies. I hate being afraid. I'm so curious about them though. I want to know what makes them scary. So I'm that horrible person that gets on like Wikipedia and reads all the plot points. I know everything there is to know about it. I know all of it. I know where he came from. I know what he is. I know all the connections. I know all of it. I have never, not once, seen it, either version. I've never read the books, nothing. But I'm so curious about the stories and how captivating they are. I will 100% go online and read everything I can. The Ring, never seen it. Know all about it. Read everything. No, there's no more, what is it? There's nothing left to see. I've seen it all. But I just, because I think that there's something amazing about the way that these stories like do captivate audiences. Paranormal Activity, like they that's the thing about horror, is it sinks in and like it grips you. I don't want to be scared, but I do want to know why.
Two more things that I just remembered. Not a movie, but a TV show that I've watched multiple times, and each time sends shivers down my spine every time I watch it. The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix. They just came out with a second season. The Haunting of Bly Manor. Both are ridiculously good. I consider them to be two of the best TV shows, period. And then if you are ever looking for absolutely mind-bending, horribly terrifying short videos to watch, go talk to DMF Saint, because he has way too many, and he has scared me more than once.
Head shanking intensifies.
Yeah.
No.
You guys, so one of my favorite movies ever is Hot Fuzz, the comedy. Okay, I screamed during that movie. Okay. There's a section where the bad guy comes out and starts going, and I pull it in the theater. We're watching a comedy, and I screamed and like jumped out of my seat.
Yep.
I can't handle horror, because even in comedies I get freaked.
Oh yeah, no, super duper nightmares from the dumbest thing. It's
from the dumbest stuff.
It's just the way that it is. I'm gonna move us on because I already kind of answered this. How would you make a horror session that's actually horror and not just spooky or gross?
Trap them. That's my answer. Super easy. Trap them on a boat with something that's killing people, and they don't know who or what, or if it's one of them. In a house, Skirvin Manor, Mad Manor of Astavar, the Fontisserie was also in a house, wasn't it?
Oh man.
Yeah.
It freaked me out so bad. It was so good.
You can.
There was
have
a whole
both.
room that I was like, "Do not go in there."
Yeah.
It sounds horrifying.
Yeah, you can have both, but if you don't want the gross or that, just trap them. They're not in an open plane. Things are happening. Where are they gonna go?
Sound effects also. I mean, I'm not saying that you have to do a bunch of Foley work, but finding, just an unsettling track to play that maybe you switch every now and then. Like, for instance, in Project Zion, I had a few, like, the tracks got progressively more and more sinister as the one shot went on, but there were a few sound effects that I had pulled out and placed, or I had prepared, and every now and then I would just click play and let it play once through, just like static, like just very minimal, or like the like very light screaming in the background. Stuff like that. They don't even really have to hear it or perceptibly hear it, but like if you put it in there, subconsciously they're going to notice it. And so sound and describing things well, it doesn't have to be extremely graphic or gory or whatever. Some of us like that stuff, some of us don't. But describing an unsettling scene with as much precision as you possibly can, using all of the W's, who, what, when, where, how, why. It's describing the senses, describing all of the players' senses when they do a perception check in D&D, and then putting subtle hints in those senses as well, like just very minor stuff. Every little detail you put in there helps build a more unsettling scene.
Did you have anything to add, Luca? I would love to know.
I spend a lot of time developing, like trying to find the right music track because I feel like it definitely adds, even if you're not paying attention to it or if you have it on low volume, it definitely adds to that. So I spend a lot of time with that. It's like, okay, here is like, it's eerie, or I want more of a soundtrack vibe here, or I just want something that's like a little like just kind of building high pitched like unease, something like that. It can just add a lot and take a lot of the work off of your shoulders, because sometimes things get going in the moment, and you don't have like always, or you're not always describing everything as best as you can, so it helps. It's a good crutch.
So Tyrant said no Foley work, but what if we started TPK Foley work? Because Foley work is so good.
No, I'm not
Choice is
saying
hell.
don't do it. I'm saying like you don't necessarily have to, but I try to do as much Foley work as I possibly can.
Yeah, your monster council, spot on. And did you use voice mod or did you do something else?
No, I didn't. This is completely natural.
Hey, there you go. Yeah, so he recorded it. If you haven't seen that, it'll be on YouTube. It was very, very good. But you had like reverb and stuff too, didn't you?
No, that was actually two separate voices that I just threw over each other. It was a whisper.
So good.
Imagine being able to do a voice different than this one.
I know. Hey, that's
I think there was the other question.
Yeah, we've got two others. So Martyr asked a fantastic question, but I actually want to kind of save that for the end because it's a little bit more of a general GM question. It's an excellent question. I do want to answer it, but I'm going to save it, Martyr. I haven't forgotten. But I think this one's legitimate because I think Turk asked this one. Do you feel that it's easier or harder to scare players through an online medium? And I have many thoughts and feelings on this, but I'm so curious because I think we all have varying experiences playing TTRPGs. Cole, I want you to start us off, man.
You picked the wrong person to go first.
I didn't. I picked the right person.
I have the least experience, I think, playing D&D in person. But so one of the horror-related episodes I've written was the first episode of Truly Evil, which takes inspiration from The Witch, which is an A24 film. Mainly just the witch ending part and Baby Guacamole. But I also, it was a very, very different intro to the campaign, where all of the players were tortured and asked a riddle. I did do it in person and online, and I think online it might have actually been easier. I think if I had a better setup in person, it could have been scarier, but online you have so many tools that are super easy to use without people seeing you. I can put a track here, or I can pop an image up when they're not expecting it, or change a scene when they're not expecting it, things like that. So I think in person it could be really scary, but I'm gonna go with online might be better from my experience because I don't play in person anymore ever.
Rest in peace in real life games. Tyrant's up to hijinks, so I'm gonna skip him. Hey, Luca.
So here's the thing with my in real life. I ran Curse of Strahd in real life, and I had LED candles, and I had my big screen TV set to like display like a Google Photos slideshow of like all these scene images from Curse of Strahd landscapes. I had like, tea dipped handouts, things like that. I could use Spotify for the music tracks and everything, which just opens things up because you don't have to worry about, copyright if it's just music in person. So there's all of that. However, we're in person, so my chaotic energy that I just give off kind of instantly negates any horror, anything I'm trying to build, because they can look over at me at any second and I'm just over there grinning like an idiot, and then like standing up and like getting another drink, or like like it's too much hijinks to just be around in person.
Can
So like I
confirm.
would go so hard into like trying to set the tone and the mood in person, but ultimately you're hanging out with me at a table and I'm like, hey, how you doing? So online is easier for me because it kind of allows me to distance from the players and my just personality from the players, and allows them, like, I can get these maps for them, and they're in Roll20, they're looking at their maps, they're hearing the music I've selected, they're seeing the handouts I've created, and they're just hearing my voice walk them through things, rather than like looking at me over at the table and I'm like, hi.
Yeah.
So it's a little easier online to cultivate the horror vibes.
You made such a good point, and how I think of that now is when I was dressed up as Tell.
Oh, so good.
If people saw my full body and I was making weird faces and staring at them at a table, they'd be like, dude, what is wrong with you? But live, it worked because like the whole time I would just like close my eyes and then just like snap them open at the camera, or I would just stare into the camera for long periods of time. So
But there's that level of separation, right?
Yeah, what you said is very true.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. I do think that there are certain elements that you get from being able to kind of have that distance between you and your players, where you can kind of like step yourself back and just focus on the content.
Mm-hmm.
Also, using apps like Roll20 or Sirenscape to get that kind of ambiance feel can be really nice when you're playing online. And sorry, I'm probably really quiet again. But I think there's a certain quality of introducing horror to people in real life and being able to gauge their reactions. I think that if you are creating a good enough story, there will be a visceral reaction from your players. And it's a lot easier to feel that energy when you're in the same room as them. You can also use certain tricks to set the mood or the ambiance a little easier. You can use copyrighted music, which is really nice. You can also light candles, dim the lights. There's a bunch of different stuff you can do in person that you can pass out props. You can give them a bloody dagger or a note that is written in blood, or pop in a blood packet and spew blood all over your face. But I guess you can probably do that online too, can't you, Turk? But no, there's good and bad things to each way you do it. So it kind of just is up to, like, even if we weren't in social distancing quarantine land right now, I don't necessarily know if I don't know which one I would want to do.
Rassam just said something in the chat. There will always be something about in real life sessions that you just can't recreate with online, even if you have all the bells and whistles to make it super fancy. And this is my response, is I think I have played joining TPK. I've played a lot online, and I was a little bit hesitant because I was worried about that immersion factor of like, isn't it kind of weird to be sitting at your computer, blah, blah, blah. But like, some of the most powerful like moments that I've had were in real life sessions, because it's like Luca said, her chaotic energy was like too much and people knew, but it is that it's that sensation of having another person next to you, just like in the moment. Cole mentioned it, like in the movie theater when you're watching a scary movie and there's all the people around you. There's something to be said about this just incredibly strong connection of like, we are in this moment. The question makes me think back to in my first like D&D adventuring party, we were in this weird like church. We had gone in the basement. There were these deep dark pits of like what we thought maybe were bodies, and like there's a throne up front with like a creepy guy, and all 5 of us were just mentally in that moment together. We didn't have the Foley, we didn't have, like, maybe there was some like spooky music, but it was just, we were all physically just, oh my God, like in that moment. And I was nervous, like joining online sessions, like, how are you going to get that? Like, how are you going to make that? Good news, fam, you can, because like in the Harpers, there have been those moments where everyone's just freaked out. And it's, is it the same? No. Is it comparable? Yes. And I think that like, it's just the way that you go about it. You have to kind of dial different knobs, but again, in-person D&D has a special place in my heart. I miss it so much. So much. There's something about the salty snacks and the like cross table hijinks that's just a lot easier to have in real life. And I think being freaked out, it's like watching a scary movie together versus online. But I think online has exceeded my expectations vastly of what it would mean to play like D&D. Like it's choice. It's great. It's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah. I think the big difference that you guys kind of all touched on is they are different, and what we do is different than playing online. You can play online and have like an around the table game. Honestly, that's not what we do 90% of the time at TPK. Like we, as much as like, I don't know if anyone wants to disagree, but we make a production. Like this is a production. This is production D&D. We don't take ourselves too extremely serious all the time.
My ego.
But I mean, like we do and we don't, you know.
Never.
We have fun. We have fun. That's what I'm trying to say. But
Yes,
around the table is like friendship coming together. You're just hanging out. So yeah, you're grilling maybe. You're walking off to get snacks. So I think online benefit is, and what we do benefit is we make a production.
I will say that there is, thinking about it a little bit more, there is a certain quality to being in a horror themed session alone in the dark with only the light of your computer screen or, you know, your desk light or whatever.
That ambiance.
Because during Murder at the Old Wolf Inn, not only was I jump scared by a giraffe, but I also, like, your imagination just starts to run wild, or in my case, the spirits like to come out at night, which we won't get into because Luca would punch me in the face. But like I was freaked out because I was hearing noises like all around me, and like there, if you go back and watch the YouTube video, there's multiple times where I'm like, oh,
yeah,
like
can confirm.
It's and then funny enough, Turk a few sessions later had the exact same thing happen to him, and it was just like feeding off of each other. Like it's kind of a intense thing when you're experiencing horror by yourself. I personally don't like to consume a lot of horror by myself,
right?
Because it's fun to watch people's reactions.
It's better when you're with other people.
Yeah.
I love the moment. Oh, I was just gonna say the moment where like everyone stands up at the table and then just starts screaming. You know, everyone pushes back their chair, stands up, and they're just screaming at each other like, "I can't believe this just happened!" Or you know, it's that I miss. But like we've been able to like closely replicate it a few times in Rippers, where like you just get a screen cap of everyone going like on their screen. So like I miss the in-person moment, but we've gotten pretty close.
Yep. I totally agree. We only have a few minutes left. And I do, again, Martyr asked a phenomenal question. What are some tips for someone who wants to be a DM but is afraid they're going to suck at it? This is such a relatable question. It's very good.
The biggest tip I would have is a few of us like to say you're only as good as the content you steal, which don't steal people's content.
But be inspired.
Yes, but be inspired. But no, I mean, draw off of your experiences. I mean, for instance, like if you're trying to design or run a horror one-shot or campaign, it's very important that you think about what we've talked about here today, plus your own horror experiences, what you fear, what you think other people fear, and how that's going to play into your campaign. Also, rely on the communities that you have built around you. For instance, I don't think any of us would be half the GM we are without all of the other incredible GMs that we feed off of every single day. It's a very symbiotic relationship that we have here at TPK. We share content with each other all the time, check in. Yeah, it's all very interconnected. So that's probably the biggest piece of advice I would have is just, I don't know, not necessarily play test, but listen to people's advice. If you have someone that you respect as a GM, reach out to them, because more often than not, they're going to give you the advice that you're looking for. I know anyone here at TPK would throw themselves on a sword to help another person out.
Yeah, I mean, I draw inspiration from you guys all the time, and I draw inspiration from TV shows, movies. I mean, mine are very obvious if you've seen the movie, and I love that. Like, if I can have a session where afterwards someone was like, this was the movie you drew inspiration from.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would love that. I'm a very technical person, so I'll give you a technical answer. One, watch a lot of D&D. Watch a lot of stuff on YouTube. Watch other GMs. Mm-hmm. 2, prep. There's like a good balance, but honestly, the more you prep, as in little tweaks, going back to it, the more time you give yourself, the more looks you take over it, the more you might tweak here and there, add a thing, do that. And just like they said, learn from other GMs. I'm constantly learning. Like, just this week, the amount of changes I've made to the episode on Sunday just from having conversations in the TPK Discord or live has been a lot. So,
Luca, I need to know. Tell me all your thoughts.
I think knowing your material, like what you're gonna do, like even if it's not prep, but you've read over it, like that world, that house, so like you can never predict what your players are gonna do, but if you are comfortable enough in where you are, what you're doing, like you can adapt, which is the number 2 thing, is adaptability. You have to be able to flow with what's happening. Like, it's like with Curse of Strahd, like I know Barovia. I have read the book, I've studied maps, I've read extra material, like I love it. I feel like I know what it smells like. Does that make sense? Like I know that place. So like the players at any second could be like, nope, we're going this direction up into the forest. I know what they're gonna find because I've spent the time developing and like familiarizing myself with this place. So like they could do anything, and like they might die horribly because whatever's up there is terrible, but like I'm able to adapt because I familiarize myself with the content, the place we are.
Mm-hmm. Kind of piggybacking off of that, there are going to be moments where you're not going to be prepared, mm-hmm. and that's okay. Just roll with it. If you want to see what kind of the general sense of what just rolling with it looks like, Cole, I don't know if you mind if I plug Smash Cut, but
never mind.
So Sarah, Luca, and I were involved in another show over on Nat 20, which is DMF Saint's new TTRPG channel, called Smash Cut, where we engaged ourselves in a 3-part complete improv 80s horror movie type thing, and it was all hijinks and all completely improv. So if you want to know like how you could be steered off of the road at any moment, that's a good source material, and it's really just like you really have to roll with it. If someone introduces something, just say, yeah, okay, and get on after it.
Yeah, I
Same
think
with the random one shot we did.
random one shot.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, random
so
one shot.
good. So
Yeah,
good.
I just want to hammer on the head real quick. Watch other shows, watch other channels, watch stuff. Because, like, if you're not watching other D&D or other shows, this
Or
is a bold
listening.
statement, but you probably shouldn't be doing it. It's like,
Ooh.
I said it's a bold statement.
Bold and brave.
It's just you learn from consuming things.
Right.
You're gonna be way better for taking in other content.
Yeah. So here's I'm gonna add my piece here, because I think here's the thing, like you're afraid you're gonna suck at it, and I'm an anxious person, but like you suck at everything when you first start. Like no one is Matthew Mercer out the gate. Nobody. And so like recognizing like realistic expectations. You have to try it first, and like it's practice. I think like watching, taking in information, being inspired, and practicing the skill set of creating a story and managing all these things. It's practice. Cole mentioned earlier playtesting. The Bard's Refrain, I playtest that before every session, because I'm still like, I don't, what if it's bad? What if it's but you just have to try it for yourself. You have to find out what works for you, and you have to practice. Like it's like learning music or any other skill at all. Like just getting in and familiarizing, and again, familiarize yourself with the content. Make sure that you have the right amount of prep. Like all of that is part of it, but really it's gonna suck until it doesn't. Like that's the reality, you know. Like no one is like, I guarantee you, all four of us and any GMs in the chat will tell you that they've had nightmare sessions, absolute dumpster fire sessions.
Mine are all on our YouTube.
Even though they prepped, even though they listened, even though they practiced, like there is no like suit of armor that you can put on that will protect you from like a bad session. Like it's gonna happen. You're gonna bomb. So just get up on that stage, just practice, and like that's what you gotta do. Like it's the same as being a player. It's the same as everything else. Somebody put in sucking at something as the first step at being kind of good at something. Yes, exactly. Like do not let the fear of failure keep you from making something. The world needs more good stuff. Like make dope shit. Like just do it, man. That's all I have to say about that.
Your players will also support you, what I've noticed. As I mentioned in the Proving Glade, I messed up major. But if you're ready to roll with the punches and just interact with your players and do that, one, they might never know. Two, at the end of the session, they'll be like, that's tons of fun. And instead of beating yourself up for the mistake, you're just like, we just went with it. It happened. We had a game. We had fun. The end.
And unless you guys have anything else you'd like to talk about real quick before we end the stream, we have met our goal of 2 hours, and we have been on for exactly the amount of time that I wanted. So
I'm out of coffee, so
I know we're perfect timing. And again, everybody in chat, you're making. Yes to everything that you're saying right now.
Everything.
Yes,
everything.
like yes.
I'm tired of just responding yes.
Yes.
I feel like a broken record a little bit, but like yes.
And I just want to reiterate, like take this stuff, and anybody who has any questions about DMing, games, anything like that, come hang out in the Discord. We have TTRPG chats. This could live. Yes, let's keep talking about it, because I think GMs do this thing where I'm GMing and I can't talk to anybody about it because I'll spoil all my secrets. That's what's so wonderful about TPK, is you can talk to people without spoiling your secrets. So like leverage that, so we can all build each other up and support each other, and it'll be great and good and wonderful.
Yep. And if your players are in the Discord, DM any of us. We will gladly throw down and help.
Yes,
for sure.
you need a wall to bounce some ideas off of. Hi, hello, my name's Sarah, and I will help you.
All right. Why don't we go around one more time and do our sign offs, and then we will close out.
Me first. I'm Lukalock, and I am a dungeon master and the design coordinator for TPK Roleplay, which you guys know. But yeah, this was awesome, and thank you for letting me join the very first show.
What's your favorite horror movie?
I don't know.
Quick outro sign off.
I think I have one. Final Girl. The Final Girls. It's all about the tropes of it.
All about the tropes. Hey everybody, I am Kohlrabi. As I mentioned, I do a lot of stuff in TPK, and I love horror a lot. So if you ever want to talk about horror or horror as it relates to D&D, feel free to reach out to me. My favorite horror movie depends on how I classify it, but I'm just gonna be real typical and say the one I've been stuck on for a lot lately this season has been The Cabin in the Woods or Trick or Treat. I watch Trick or Treat like every single Halloween season. So that's it from me.
Hello, I'm Osirix Franco. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter at Osirix Franco and just all over the TPK Discord. I look forward to talking to you all there. I'm very excited. Favorite horror movie? I don't watch horror movies. So here's what I'll do. I'll tell you my favorite Halloween movie, which is Arsenic and Old Lace. Perfect film. Perfect film for Halloween.
Perfect.
If you haven't seen it, treat yourself to an old-timey classic. Just really quick, because we've got so much stuff going on at TPK over the next week, and I just want to plug some of it because I'm very excited. On Tuesday, we have the series finale of The Harpers, and I'm not ready for all the tears and real legitimate fear that I will feel during that session. So come check it out. It's going to be wonderful. And then we have... there's so much going on, but we also on Friday have Murder on Eberron Express, a murder mystery type vibe. As a heads up for people who are interested, this is the only time this week that I'll look like myself on this channel. So please come out. Everyone's pulling out all the stops for these next one shots. So come check them out. They're all going to be phenomenal. Anyways, that's me. I'm very excited.
And once again, I am DoctorTyrant. You can find me everywhere at DoctorTyrant. Following up off of what Sarah just said, come watch the stuff because we've got some costumes planned. And holy cow, one of us went way over the line.
I'm so excited.
And shocked us all. Only other thing I want to plug, first off, the schedule was just posted by Streamlabs. Thank you, Streamlabs, for being helpful. Go check it out for all of the 14 Days of Halloween content that we have not mentioned. It's really hard to keep everything straight, to be completely honest, because we have so much content.
And I didn't help you guys, so sorry about that.
Yeah, it's fine.
No, it's great.
So a week from tomorrow, we have the premiere for very new show, Total Party Recap, where we will be weekly recapping all of the content that we have on TPK's channel. This one is going to be a bit longer. Usually they're going to be about 2 hours long, I would guess. This one's going to probably go into a bit longer because we are going to be recapping all of 14 Days of Halloween. So that is going to be a lot of fun, and Luca made just the most amazing overlay for that and promos, and Brizzy made Song Again.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to Brizzy for our theme song and to Proper Nerdy for our intro video. Amazing choice, just chef's kiss. So good. Talent. Love it.
So good. But yep, that's I'm pretty sure all I have to talk about. Keep an eye out for more content on the horizon because we never stop and we never sleep. So there's going to be more.
That's the real nightmare.
Since I botched it, I'll give you the final word after this. But we are doing a movie night for a horror movie on the 29th, which is the Little Shop of Horrors. So if you want to come hang out with me and watch a horror movie, that's what I should have plugged.
Are we doing something on the 31st?
Yeah, it
Sleeping.
is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark in Discord. So we'll open up a new channel in the Discord to drop all your scary stories and just hang out with each other.
So if you're not doing anything on the 31st, and I highly encourage you don't for Halloween, because you better social distance.
Social distance, wear your mask.
DMF Saint, one of our GMs, is hosting a scary movie marathon the entire day. And later in the day, he will be we will all be participating in Rocky Horror Picture Show. I think that's what it's called. I haven't seen it, so I don't know. And he's sending us like lists for props and stuff, and so I guess we're all gonna like engage in it. So if you want to check that out, DMF Saint is where you can find him everywhere, and he's an incredible person to follow too. James for us plays video games, and you can scare him on his stream, which is the most fun thing on the planet to do because he screams. So, and he's a large man. So, yeah, that's all I have. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. Your questions were amazing. Your participation so good. Am I gonna have to throw rice in my bedroom? The answer to that is always yes, proper. Anyways. Thank you so much.
Someone explain that reference.
Luca, Cole, thank you so much for joining us for this inaugural kickoff of the show. Yes. You're amazing, inspiring, beautiful people. We love you very much.
Thank you guys. And I believe